What I would like to do today is share things about communication, some skills for being able to really speak your heart, being able to negotiate with people so that everyone feels they're getting their needs met. And I think these are skills that should be taught in kindergarten and every year of school. We're taught how to do English, but we're not taught how to talk to each other. And it's pretty vital. So the first part of this communication is that we speak above the line. And the line is neutral. Above the line are ways of speaking that build self-esteem, yours and the other person. Below the line are ways of speaking that diminish self-esteem, yours and the other person. So when you speak above the line, you basically take out all the negatives. And anything you can say below the line, you can say above the line. And what it leads you to doing is saying what you want instead of what you don't want. So, for instance, it might be below the line, you might say, I can't stand when you're late all the time. And above the line, it might be, you know, when you come at the time that you say, I am so ready to see you, I'm excited, I'm able to just be 100% present, and I want more of that experience. So can we work something out enough time? Then what we do is add to that a love sandwich. So I call this erotic communication. I think it's particularly useful in intimate relationships. And yet, I think we have a lot of intimate relationships even in our business. Being in a room with someone doing therapy or coaching is pretty intimate. So we call it a love sandwich. And basically, it's a valuing statement, and then request your feedback, and another valuing statement. So it might be, I really appreciate this conversation with you, and I noticed that we've begun talking about other people in a way that feels kind of negative and putting down. And I do that too, and I notice I feel better when I'm not doing that. So I want to invite us to take it a little higher and see what we can say that's more positive and uplifting, because I think we'll both really gain from that. So they get to feel valued, and you get to ask for what you want. I think when we don't ask, we actually are dishonoring the other person. When we go through and allow things to happen that we haven't spoken about, when we don't say what it is we want, we're treating them like someone who wouldn't want to please us, even if they knew how. And I want to approach life and connections, my relationships, with a sense of people would really like to please us, that people want to operate from a milieu of love and may just not quite know how to do that. So I'm going to give them every opportunity. And I think when we ask for what we want, we're actually giving people the keys to the kingdom. It's like, this is what would allow you to connect more deeply with me. And that's an honoring of the other person. You're treating them like someone who would want to connect and someone who would know how if they had an opportunity to know what you'd like. So I'll do this in like an hour and a half class where people exchange touch in this way. And at first they go, well, I can't just be talking all the time and telling people what I want. But it's not all the time. And it is occasionally saying what you would like instead of what's happening. And by the time they're done, it's like, I got to get totally out of my head. Because I could trust that there was a feedback loop between us. And that's what happens when you learn to give feedback, when you learn to make requests, is it starts being relational without one person trying to figure the whole thing out for both people. Sound good? Mm-hmm. So Why don't you give me something you feel you need to say to someone in your business or your life, and we'll see if we can take it above the line. Something that you would say that you just, I can't say that, it's too negative. Someone have an example? Yes.
I've got one. I have a client that ran out of money midway through our agreement, our signed consulting agreement, our engagement. And I have terms in there that I have a 60-day cancellation clause. They need to pay me for the rest of those 60 days. And the new CEO that stepped in to try to turn the company around refuses to even speak with me about it. He knows that that's outstanding, and he won't even discuss it. No calls at all, no conversation whatsoever. So, and this has been going on for at least 4 or 5 months, and I'm at the point of, my lawyer is actually reviewing the document, gonna send out a cease and desist, demand letter. And that's not how I really want to do business.
Right.
So
you want to offer me the biggest challenge first, thank you. If there's no communication, it's a little challenging to use communication. And what I would start with is to say to the person you've worked with, I've really enjoyed working with you, or some honest valuing statement. I really was loving our work together. I feel we were making a lot of progress. I would love to continue our work together. It seems that money is what's come between us, and I'd like to find a way to get that out from between us so that we can get back to integrity with each other. Because I honor integrity, and I know you do too. Or something you do know that they value. So now they're feeling valued instead of you're coming after them for money. And I would come from a place of, there was a relationship, I want the relationship honored. And the money is a part of that, honoring of the relationship.
thank you.
Anyone else? You don't have anything negative to say? Okay.
Why are you so messy?
So I'm assuming this might be someone you're living with.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly. So you find a valuing statement. I love living with you.
Mm-hmm.
I love so much of what we share. And I also notice that I love a pretty clean house. And I notice that sometimes when you engage in something, you leave a bit of a mess behind. And I feel like I either have to tolerate it or clean it up myself. And then I go to resentment. And I want to stay out of resentment with you. You see, I didn't say, and I don't want to go there. That's below the line. I want to stay out of resentment with you. So I'm curious if we could have a conversation about ways that you would be willing to pick up after yourself more, and ways to maybe create times we both clean up the mess. Are you open to that? Because I want peace between us, and I want to enjoy the beautiful love we have.
Nice.
So you take time for that valuing that enrolls people in what you're wanting to do. Yes.
So, in having conversations with my husband, he tends, and especially if it's a difficult conversation, he tends to get up, walk around, and start doing other things. And I'm like, can we just sit down and really have a conversation first? And he's like, I'm listening. Oh, so
Yeah.
I'd like to address that in a different way.
Okay.
But then I tend to just get mad.
Yeah. So you might start with some term of endearment you use. So, darling, honey, whatever. I find having conversations with you about some things that matter to me really important. And I find them so important, I'm willing to take time to sit and have that conversation because I want to take care of our relationship. And what I notice, and that's often a good way to start the feedback, what I notice is when I'm having that conversation and you're getting up and walking around, I start going into feeling not heard. Oops, I went below the line. I go into feeling left out. And part of me's like, oh, and I want to pull you back. And I get so engaged with you're not sitting by, you're moving around rather than sitting by me, that I lose hope that we're going to finish this important piece. And you're really important to me. I'm wanting these conversations for both of us, and I'm curious if you'd be willing to stay a little longer. And maybe if you need to get up, do that, and come back. That would honor me to have you do it.
That was beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted a clarification of, you said, oops, I dropped below the line. Could you speak to that a little bit, Evalena there?
I want you to feel the difference in your body when I say, you ask me to do something, I say, that's not working for me. Feel the difference between that and saying, I'd love to find something that would work for both of us. So when you put that nod in there, that's where I drop below the line, saying what I don't want, but I'm not telling the person what I do want. So how can they really step up to meet me if I'm only telling them what I don't want? And I would love, first of all, to give up the "it's not working for me" phrase.
Yeah,
It's one of those popular ones. And to be able to say, you know what would work better for me is such and such. So it lets everyone, it opens the opportunity of a need getting met, rather than the nod tends to put a kibosh on the connection. If I'm telling you what I don't like, you're going to back away a little bit. But if I'm inviting you to what I would like, it keeps people engaged. So Moore University, who's also works in the sex positive world, will call this positive request reward. So it can be a nonverbal reward. It might be, I love sitting on the couch with you. Would you scoot a little closer? Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Or in touch. When you get what you want, you let them know. You go, would you be willing to, sometimes people touch in one place forever. And you just want to say, get your hand off my hand. Instead, you say, I love that you want to touch me. Because you can't say, I love how you touch me. You want to be honest. You want to be really find a valuing statement that you're behind. I love that you want to touch me. If you'd be willing to take that up my whole arm, that would be great. Oh, yeah. Maybe a little lighter. Ooh, lighter. Nice. So what often happens if we do say what we want, we ask for something and we don't tell them we got it. And then we ask for something else and we don't let them know there's no reward. And we ask for something else and they go, I can never please you. So you let the other person know it pleases you. In my world, people will say, thank you for driving. Thank you for being willing to come to my house. That we let people know that their behavior is pleasing us so that they want to do more. And it creates, again, this loop of pleasure, this loop of connection between us. I'm going to look at my notes as if they have something on them. Yes?
Can I give another example? Can you repeat that?
Yes.
Somebody in my family is usually in physical pain, and so they tend to get cranky, and so I feel like sometimes they take it out on me or others that are around them. So how do I address that?
You might say, I know you're in physical pain, and I imagine it gets really old, really tiring. And there's a certain amount I'm available to hear about it. I'd rather you talk to me about what your pain is than just let it kind of leak out, so that I can really be here for you, because I'd like to support you, and I also want kindness in our home. I want us to be really loving and caring of each other, and I imagine you do too. So let's find another way. I had a partner once, I was so proud of her. It was when I was going through incest memories, and had a bunch of stuff up about my inner kids, and she listened, and then at one point she said, "So I'll tell you what, my dear, I have been happy to listen to you up until this moment, and I feel I've got about 10 more minutes in me that I can be available to you and your kids. If you still need to be with your inner kids, I totally honor that. You can go in the other room and do whatever you need. But here in bed, I want us to do something else. So if you're going to stay in bed with me, can we change to something really positive? Can we get to an adult place? And if your kids need you, please go take care of them." I felt so honored. It was like, there wasn't a make wrong in it. And there was an option. So she could take care of herself, and I could take care of me, and I might want to do that with her. So I want to talk about negotiating. Very often, when we ask someone for something, they say no, and we stop the conversation. I've had clients, I've said, "So did you talk to your partner about doing therapy?" And the answer was, "Yeah, I asked him." "And what happened?" He said no. "And then what?" The end of conversation. I think a no is not necessarily the end of conversation. I think it's often the beginning of negotiation. And what we say in new culture is, if it's not a yes, it's a no. A maybe's a no. But a maybe means there may be room to negotiate. And I think a really good way to approach after a no is inquiry. So inquiry is not necessarily a question. So you're not, why do you not want to say that? It's more asking. So it might be, if the person says no, it might be, well, I'm curious what might be working for you, or I'm curious what might be behind that no, because I'd love to understand what's happening for you and see if we can find a meeting ground. So I think we have to really listen to boundaries, and no is a boundary. Boundaries, I call them erotic. When we set boundaries with each other, it delineates the playing field. So now we know what's outside the playing field, and that's what the no is about. But I want to get curious about what's inside the playing field. So I might ask, is there anything in what I've suggested that's intriguing to you? Not asking for commitment, asking for further conversation. So it seems to me inquiry is very underused. It starts with I'm curious, or I wonder, or my mind is getting busy with the thought that maybe there's something I haven't asked you'd be interested in. So I'm totally talking about me. So they can't take a make wrong, although some people can, no matter what you say. And that's how they live. But it also is giving the person an opportunity to offer more of what they really want. I was married to a man at one point, and he was Capricorn. And what I came to know was he was going to be a no to every question, every request. So I just took it as the first answer. And then I continued to engage about what I was asking. And then I'd ask it in another way, and often got to yes. So some people, that no is really handy. And if you talk about what it is they would like in relation to what you're asking, you may find that common ground. So let's do a little play with negotiations. I would love to have someone give an example of something they might need to negotiate about. This can be really interesting with my clients. And we'll play with it. So do something in your business, co-workers, clients, that you've gotten a no around or you've gotten a dead end and you want to see if there's a way to open it up. And I may ask you to come up and role play it with me. Yes? Do you want to come up?
Sure.
I have a past client, and
Hold
she.
the mic closer.
Okay, I have a past client, and some things went awry due to somebody else, but due to the fact that I introduced them to her, she is very angry. And even though I have come up with a solution to get her back her funds, she's still very angry and won't talk to me, and I can't deal with the anger well, because there's of course two sides to it. So I'm loving what you're saying here, because this has been eating me a lot, and I don't want to come from anger or upset. I want to I want to fix and heal this relationship.
Okay. So you want to play her?
Okay. I don't actually hear from her much, but,
Right.
okay,
Right. So let's call her Joan.
okay.
Just for fun. So, Joan, I am aware that you have a lot of anger with me. And I want you to know that that matters to me. And I want you to know that it's kind of with me every day, or whatever is true, that it's important to me that you're angry. It's important to me that we find some resolution with it. And I would love to have an opportunity to talk to you and see what we could negotiate, because I value having you feel better about this whole situation.
Okay, well, by putting it that way, I appreciate that. In fact, I do have a lot of gratitude for this beautiful integrity you have. I'm just really angry that I'm in this situation.
So I hear you're really angry. This is reflective listening. So that you reflect back what you hear so they get heard. Because once people get heard, we can go to the next conversation. I hear you're really angry. In fact, I hear you're really angry. And it's been very, very hard to let it go. I can understand you being angry. It certainly isn't a situation you want to be in. Absolutely isn't a situation I wanted to put you in or help you get into. So I want you to know I can receive your anger, and I hope we can still have some communication and connection, because that's important to me, that we move past this terrible thing there.
Well, okay, I will give that some consideration, because things were going so well until they weren't. And I know it's not your fault, and I know you're trying to fix it. It's just that I'm just caught in my anger right now. And, but we have had such a wonderful relationship in the past, and a lot of it comes from my fear of what my future will be.
Wow, I really get that. I really get that when your financial world crashes, there's a big fear about the future. So I want to honor we've just done is we've negotiated the willingness to have a conversation. And that's where it has to start. People won't talk to you. People don't want to do anything with you. You can't just dive in. Let me tell you what I think. Because there's no fertile ground. But we've just negotiated a willingness to have a conversation. Yes.
That was very helpful. I'm in a similar situation, actually. You said, I am willing to receive your anger. And that sent up a red flag for me. I am not willing to receive anyone's anger. So I'd be interested to hear how you manage that yourself. And, yeah.
So I have a whole course on living as an empath, about not taking on people's energy and being sovereign in your field. If you go on EvalenaRose.com, you'll see the video for that and a bunch of other ones. So the brief version is, as soon as I know I'm speaking to someone with anger, I really get my field solid, put light all around me. And if it's alive in her right now, I might ask Divine Mother to stand between us. So I'm not saying I'll take on your anger. I'm not saying I'll make it mine. I'm saying I can be present with you while you're angry, while you're afraid. I can witness it. And I have to be really thoughtful that I stay in the witnessing and not over here. Yeah, so that's the self-care, that we create this sovereign field. That's another talk someday. Okay.
Oh, again,
I'm really good at that.
you're just maybe not supposed to use notes.
Yeah, and there's no place for those cards to sit. They wanna just keep going.
It's fine. I want to say a really good place to practice above the line is in your own head. So I made it a spiritual practice for 2.5 years to transmute everything I said inside and out to above the line. And of course I didn't do it every day, and of course I fell away from it, and it became more and more the way that I approach things. Until I'm really stressed. My friend Leslie can know this, because this week I got really stressed and nothing was above the line. It took a while to get back there, but you keep getting back, and the way you get back is by shifting these voices in the head. So whatever you're saying, if it's grousing about someone else, or, oh my God, that was so stupid of me, stop. Oh, okay, how do I take that above the line? I wish I were more discerning in situations like this. And I want to take time to think things through rather than jump into something. So now I'm talking about what I want instead of what I don't. So if you'll take this as a practice, that every voice inside you get to be with, and see if you can take it above the line, and maybe put it in a love sandwich. You know, Evalena, that isn't the way you want to eat at night. You've said it to yourself many times, and let's let go of stupid. Let's let go of that. Let's say that at night you want comfort. Comfort's important. Here's my love sandwich. I'd love for you to have comfort at night, and I'm willing to work with you, dear addict in me, to find really delicious, comforting foods that we can have before bedtime that allow us to wake up feeling good instead of starched out. Are you willing to work with me and love you? And it works. And as kind as you get inside is how kind you're going to be with other people. So that inner dialogue, that place of I care about you, I care about what's happening with you, that's going to come from caring about yourself. So how about you make kind of an agreement with yourself between now and the next DeVa to see how very, very kind you can be inside. it reflects outside. I have a perfect example of this. I went to a party a couple years ago, and I looked around, and there were all these wonderful Sonoma County people, and a lot of them I happened to know were looking for partners, and nobody was finding one. And here was 80 people looking for partners. And so I started this inner dialogue. We've all ruled each other out. None of us are going to find anyone here. We all just dismiss each other. Nobody sees anybody, and nobody saw me. I felt invisible. After a few minutes of this, no one would dance with me. No one would talk with me. I felt like curling up in the corner or going home and going into a fetal position, and I suddenly went, wait a minute, I don't like what I'm thinking. And I started, I am well loved, well received, well romanced, honored and appreciated. I had people love dancing with me, and they loved talking with me, and suddenly people came up, people started talking to me. The whole evening I was dancing with these wonderful people. I had a fabulous time. And all I did was switch in here from the negative to the positive. It's that powerful. Because we are vibrational beings. And when we change what we're resonant with, other people can feel that and can make that shift along with us. I also want to say any tool, like above the line, can also become a bludgeon. Every tool can. So, a bludgeon. So let's say, I think it's good to enroll people you love into above the line communication. Love sandwiches. And it works really well until someone says something and you say, would you take that above the line? That's the bludgeon. We tend to take what serves us and use it to make ourselves wrong. So just be thoughtful that you keep your tools. And that when you're needing a bludgeon, you go to kindness instead. I think it is okay to say to someone, even if they don't know the language, you know, I'd really love to hear what you're saying. And I notice with the negatives in your communication, my mind gets a little tangled, trying to find out what your real communication is. I wonder if you'd be willing to say the same thing in all positive words. And then I think I can really hear you and we can find common ground. And most people can do that. And nothing works with everyone. That's why there's so many tools. So, I also want to talk about a clear yes and a clear no. What we tend to do is we're afraid to say no. We're afraid of hurting people's feelings. So we don't say no, we don't say what we want, we let things go on until we can't stand it anymore, and then we blow the whole thing out of the water. And I think it's much more kind to be saying your yeses and nos early on. I worked with someone yesterday in therapeutic channeling, and she said she had so many people that totally relied on her, and then when she needed them, they weren't there for her. And there was this one, and it had been years, and the woman had never been there for her, and finally she had to cut it off. And I said, I think you might have been able to set boundaries a lot sooner. If you want to cut it off, it's way past the beginning of setting boundaries. So it could be the first time or the second time. You know, I've been really happy to be here and be here for you. And I would love to also experience you being there for me. So I wonder if right now you'd have some time that you could listen to me and give me reflection, or maybe the next time we get together. Because I really value reciprocity, and I think we'll be happier in our connection if it's more reciprocal. So you're infusing the connection with the values that are important to you. I call this giving people the keys to the kingdom. We're letting people know what touches us, what serves us, what will help us to be happier in the interaction. And sometimes a no is really, I don't know how to say yes today. And if we take time to find the yes, to find a common ground, it's a favor to both people. I'd love to do another negotiation with someone. Who would like to work on a scene, preferably someone you're actually talking to?
I can do one.
Okay.
Let me just set this back up here. Okay. Do you want me to come up?
Yes.
This is funny. Hey, are you going to be the person I'm negotiating with?
You're going to play them and I'm going to play you.
This is going to be fun. All right, this is my husband who thinks that things that drop on the floor are gone. Yeah. And so I'm going to play him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Shall I then? Or you do it. What I want you to say.
What do you want me to say?
I want you to ask him to not drop things that I've asked him to not drop on the floor anymore.
Could you hear that?
Yes.
Say it again. This is the below the line version.
Right. I don't want you to drop things on the floor that I've asked you to not drop on the floor before. Right. It's everything.
What do you call it?
Oh, what do I call him?
When you love it.
When I
Nice.
love him.
Inside voice.
Favorite.
We can't hear.
Yeah, can you use the microphone?
Or speak a little more slowly or something, we're missing out here.
Okay. Did you hear what she said?
No.
She wants him to not drop things on the floor that she's told him not to drop before. And when she loves him, she calls him babe.
And I'm him.
Babe, I know we've had a conversation around this other times. I also know you really love me and you'd like for me to be happy. So I want to talk about one thing that diminishes my happiness. And it's going to be challenging to tell you if you walk away. So do you want to say what walking away means?
I don't know why we're even talking about this. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like a little thing. Why do you have to nitpick?
I understand it's a little thing. And a little thing. And a little thing. And a little thing. And a little thing. You know how many little things can add up?
All right, I get it. All right, I get it.
And
Are we done?
could you say what you get? I'd love to hear what you get.
Well, you're annoyed at me. I mean, that's what this clearly is. I can't do anything right.
So I'm hearing that my request for us to do things in a cooperative way feels like nothing but annoyance and make wrong to you. And I'm sad it comes in that way. Because I really love you.
I know.
And I really want to find a way that we can be in this house where we're both happy. Would you like that?
I'm happy. I don't know why you're not happy.
So I'm here, you're happy. I'm glad you're happy. I wonder if you imagine I'm happy picking up all these little things and little things and little things.
I don't know why you can't just let it go.
My personality, maybe. And I happen to be the one married.
It's true.
And because I am this way, I wonder if you'd be willing to adjust a little to me. So our intimacy can come from a really deep place rather than me pushing down resentment.
All right, I guess I'll try.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you. I might go further with what does trying look like, or
He'd be gone already.
So,
How do you keep people, how do you keep them engaged when there's someone who tends to just shut down and walk away? I don't have a talker. I'm done.
I let them know that their being done is hurtful to me.
Okay.
See, what they don't realize when they do something, let's go forward a little bit. When they do something that is hurtful over and over, they're affecting our intimacy. They're affecting our connection. And you can't use it like, if you don't do that, I won't go to bed with you. But you can let them know. When I have spent all day picking up little things and see how happy you are, I feel my resentment, it's challenging to get in bed with you and want to open my heart and my body to you. And I want to be able to do that. I want us to come together with kindness. So I'm asking for kindness. It gets it out of mom and child.
Right. That's what I always fall into.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
How much time do I have?
Well,
30 more minutes?
Oh my.
That's called wealth. Wow. So sometimes it's yes with a condition, or it's no with a suggestion. So it might be, would you be willing to go to dinner with me and a movie tonight? And it might be, I'd love to be with you tonight, so you share what you're a yes to. And finding I'm not, whoops, went below the line. You feel it? Mm-hmm. Feel the difference between, I'm finding I'm not wanting to go to a movie tonight. And when I feel into my body, I would love to be more active than sitting in a movie theater. So I'd love to go to dinner, and then what if we went for a walk afterwards? That would be really beautiful. And then we can share, and I'd like that. So it's yes and a negotiation. Or it might be no to the request, and here's what I suggest instead. But if we stay out of the no or the not, could you feel a difference in your body? What was the difference?
Contraction and expansion.
So when I say, I'd really love to go for a walk, or I'd really like something more active, it allows you to feel honored. It builds self-esteem, that's what I mean. Above the line builds your self-esteem and the other person's. And below the line diminishes yours and the other person. So, when you ask someone to do something, what I see some people do is they like, you want to go out to dinner right now? Oh, that's okay, you don't have to. They do both people's work, but they haven't given you time to find out your answer. And if a person's kinesthetic, to get that answer means they need to meander down into their body and find out what their body says and meander back out, and it takes about that long. So we want to get patient and give people time to find their real answer, because then we're both on a page, we're both on a playing field we want to be on. If someone has lost their nose and you're asking them something that might be fairly intimate or in an area of their trauma, it takes time to get past, oh, I should just do what they want, and self-talk, oh my goodness, can I possibly say what I want? Well, maybe, they're listening, maybe I can. And if you give someone that kind of time, you're going to get a real answer. And I think what we really want is to be in authentic relationship, an authentic connection, not just get our way. And that's what the assumption under this kind of communication is it's not about anyone getting our way. It's about finding common ground, finding a playing field. So does anyone else have a negotiation they want to play with?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Which is, I'm somebody who is going yes, but in my head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up with yes, but, and I go to sleep with it, and that's my response to almost anything. So is there anything I can do with myself to calm that voice and to change it into, well, let's talk about this, to enter that negotiation?
The first thing is I feel every voice in our heads is there for a reason. They're all trying to help us. Their strategy may be very old, what we had to do to get by. It may not serve now, but their intention is to help. So I always want to go in and talk to the voice and find out, how are you trying to help me? And find an above the line positive way for that to be helpful. So my first thought is, when you hear yes, but, say yes, and, because you want possibility, and the yes, but is cutting off possibility. So they're trying to help you probably by not going into unfamiliar territory, which is the ego's job. I think we want to honor the ego that it was given the job of keeping us same old, same old. And we go for all this change, and then we fight our ego, and it's just doing its job. So we need to inform it. I really want these options. I want these possibilities. How can I support you in working with me? Often I find the voice that's the most negative, that catches you doing everything wrong and tells you, they're a real resource because they watch everything. They're ever vigilant. And they're always on duty. So if I've got a part that's on duty, I want to use that. So I'll often have a conversation with that voice in people and say, I got a great job for you. What you've been doing, you want to honor first. What you've been doing has been really valuable. I know you helped me get here. And I appreciate how vigilant you are, how you're always on duty, and how hard you work. So I have a great new job for you. And it's pretty intense. I think you're up to it. And I think you're probably the best one for it. Right now, what I'd like you to do is catch me doing everything right and tell me. Praise me. And they'll almost always shift over. They're tired of it. It gets really old, and the more you grow and the more positive you get, the harder their job is. So you give them a job that is the opposite. It's usually the opposite. I have a friend who calls the conditioning we got upside down conditioning. We just turn it the other way. So it's usually the opposite. And you enroll them in doing the new job. And sometimes I'll say, would you like a guide or angel to help you? Would you like a mentor? And then I have a practice, finding something to praise you about. And it may take a few reminders, but almost always they shift. Kindness. Kindness does a lot. I saw another hand. Archie.
So this is touchy. My mother-in-law is 93. She just went through a near-death experience. And my sister-in-law is a nurse of 40 years, and she really interrupted the process. So Mom is going home tomorrow, and we have different philosophies. I had actually mentioned hospice, and she was really hostile. Sister-in-law. And said, they just give you enough drugs to kill you. So since then, she has told all the caretakers, there's full-time caretakers, they can't talk to us, and she's not giving us any information. And I really did acknowledge, I know you guys have worked so hard, and she's just not budging. She's really paranoid at this point. And we're not ready to sign her up for it. She doesn't even have a diagnosis at this point because she came through that for hospice. But she's really, really paranoid and has to always be in control. And we're sort of feeling like, you know, we would really like to open the dialogue, at least have a discussion.
Marjorie, is it the mom or the sister that's so?
My mother-in-law, 93, and she doesn't really know what's going on so much.
Right.
The sister-in-law, who's been my sister-in-law for 34 years, the sister-in-law is the one that is being very controlling. She's got her staff. She won't.
And her name?
Barbara.
Barbara, I feel how much you care for your mother. And I really understand that you put time, energy, and effort into trying to figure out what's best for her.
Yeah, you're right, we have.
And I'm wanting to open a dialogue about how we can collaborate and partner in that, so that we're both contributing to her care. Because it's probably going to grow, and it may be too much for just one of us.
Well, you don't really know what's going on. I've been a nurse for 40 years and I know better. And so I really need to be the one that's in charge.
I honor that you've been a Norse nurse. Oops. You've been an annoying nurse. That's what you say inside.
That's right.
It's really okay to say it inside so it doesn't come out.
By the way, it's not her mother, it's her mother-in-law too.
It's her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay. I honor that you've been a nurse a long time. You certainly know more than I do in the nursing department. I've also been a daughter, a family member for a long time. So I want to come in as a family member and as a daughter-in-law and be able to share my caring too. Because I think she could benefit from both of us caring. And I want to give her the best. I know you do too. We both want to give her the best possible. See, I'm looking for common ground. What do we both care about that we can connect on?
Well, I really think that you guys would just like to have her go, and you probably don't have the best, her best intentions in mind. And, you know, every time we have to drive up there, it's 6.5 hours, and we're there every 2 weeks, and we have to do this. And, you know, you just don't know how hard it is to have to run all that staff and have 5 caregivers, and some of them are out and going on vacation, and one has to do 20 days in a row. You just don't even know.
So when someone says, you don't know how hard it is, I want to say, you're right. Because nobody else knows how anyone is suffering. And if I say, well, I think I do know, then she feels invalidated.
And the hackles come up.
Yeah.
Every defense, yeah.
So I can understand if you think we don't care and we just want to get rid of her, why you wouldn't want us involved. So I want to let you know that I really do care about this woman. And I care about supporting her end-of-life care in a way that's best for her. And I couldn't possibly know how hard it is. I couldn't possibly know what you're going through coordinating all these people. So I want to help lighten your load. I'm not trying to take it on. I can't do it even half as good as you're doing. I just want to be a yes and. I want to add something here. And I'd be really grateful if you'd allow me to do that, allow us to find a way that might make it a little easier for everyone.
Hard to say no to that.
Hard to say no. I know she's 5 minutes.
I can't read from that
Can't
far.
read it.
15.
15.
Okay. Well, maybe it's better to just have one point of connection for all these caregivers. You know, I don't necessarily want you talking to them, which is really true. And when I saw your husband out there talking to him in front of the house, I thought you guys were all, you know, just getting ready to cart her off to an institution.
I can really understand that would have scared you. I'm totally in alignment with you being the key person with the caregivers. When I'm around them, I'm going to talk in a kind way. I want to be friendly. I'm not going to just turn a cold shoulder to them, because my goal is to create the kindest environment possible for mother-in-law, and that may help with that. So I want to reassure you that my only reason for mentioning hospice was when it felt like she might be close to end of life. And that's a very kind and loving thing that can happen for someone. I'd be happy to share more with you about it. The goal we would have is to help her have the best end of life possible. So we could go on, but you see what I'm working with is finding a common goal, finding a place we can meet, and just letting her vehemence wash over me. Because I'm not going to change her.
Right.
What I'm hoping for, if I were you, I'm hoping to get a little opening where I can be a part of what's happening with this woman and let her control the scene.
Right. And she would agree that she wants the best for her.
Yeah.
So that's probably the opening.
That's the meeting ground.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're not letting you off easy today, Evalena.
That's fine, I asked for it. Yes.
As part of this particular conversation, because nurses have such a hard life in their jobs, I'm wondering, would it have been appropriate for you as the daughter-in-law to say, I know your job has put you in really hard situations like this a lot. I can imagine it might be bringing up so much that you have to face day by day. Or do you just not go there?
My read of this particular person would be that she doesn't want empathy. She wants to have how hard it is for me protected. Don't challenge it. Don't challenge my authority. So I wouldn't go there, because she'd say, don't do therapy on me. Yeah. So when you've got that reactivity in the other person, I go for kindness. And where's a kind playing field? You know, if I heard her say, I really want you to understand what I'm going through, I might do that.
I just wanted to also acknowledge the tone and the neutrality. It's the tone and the neutrality. I said I just wanted to acknowledge the tone and the neutrality in your communication that eases the body as well as the words.
I think that's what we have a hard time with.
Right. So when I'm doing something like that one, my internal world, I'm closing my lower chakras pretty much completely. So it's not triggering my tribal stuff. I'm closing my third one, maybe 60%, so we're not in a power play. I'm opening my heart, and I'm probably saying, God, Goddess, guide my words, my thoughts, my actions several times in the process. I don't go anywhere without my spiritual support. It's always present, and I lean into it heavily a lot. So if you can, when you don't know what to say, pray. You can put a little space holder in the conversation. You can say, let me think about that a moment. Or, what I'm noticing is, come on. What I'm noticing is that when I hear you say, and then I may fill a little space reflecting what I heard him say, because people want to be heard. So I may reflect a little bit. Oh, finally, now I have something to say. So the reptilian brain answers immediately. Fight, flight, or freeze. That's it. 3 choices. So if someone says something, you get triggered, you're in the fight, flight, or freeze, be quiet. That's not where you want to come from. Take 7 seconds for the conscious mind to come online. So what I'm noticing is, or hold on, let me think about that, gives me 7 seconds. I start getting some resources available. 10 seconds, it takes 10 seconds to get the intuitive mind functioning. That's why they say count to 10. Sometimes if it gets heated, I might say, I'd really like for us to come down to a little calmer place. Would you be willing to take 3 breaths with me before we speak again? I've got my count to 10. And I've got some resources available to bring to the conversation. I use prayer a lot inside. And if I'm having a challenge with someone's energy, I ask an angel to stand between us, or Divine Mother to stand between us. We got a lot of resources that we can use if we really allow ourselves to do it. So the hardest thing is to get clear with is the assumptive statement. So if someone says, call me tomorrow, and if you don't say no, they think you've promised. And someone last night said, well, I really want to see you when you come back in June, so when you get here, call me. And I want to be totally honest, I'm not going to say yes. So I said, you know, I'll be busy with a lot of things in June. I'm unlikely to make that phone call. If you want to talk to me, I'd like you to talk to me. I'd like you to call me. And I do that a lot when people say, why don't you call and we'll get together? I don't tend to make those calls. So I want to tell them the keys to my kingdom, which is if you want to go for a walk, you may have to call me. And then I'd love to. I had someone assume because she had offered me her place to see clients and to stay, most of the time I was here, and someone else might use it some, and there were 2 or 3 other conditions, and she thought because she'd offered it, I had agreed. So she rearranged everything and her housekeeper and all of that, and never said, are you going to use my space? And then got really angry that I wasn't going to use it. And I shared with her that I hadn't made a commitment. In fact, when you offered, I said, well, thank you, I have some other offers. And, you know, there's where if I had gotten back, it would have been better. Although I was interfacing with a lot of people to get here. But all she had to do was text me, we text a lot, and say, when are you going to be here and how much you're going to use it? Rather than the assumption and then the reactivity. So what gets said in channeling a lot is someone else's preference is not your obligation.
Tell that to my mother.
Hey, Mom.
Can you repeat that again?
Someone else's preference is not your obligation. So someone says, I really want to get together and meet at your house. You're not obligated to do that until you obligate yourself. Or someone says, the other day, I love your playlist. I really want you to send me your playlist because I know it'll really help me with my pujas to have your playlist. I'm not obligated until I say yes. And I have a lot of choices. There's a big continuum between no and yes. And I could find somewhere in there, which might be, I'll give you one playlist. Yes.
Evalena, I just want to say, this is a great piece. A lot of times people will say, I'd like to pick your brain.
Yes.
And I don't have the time or inclination for people to pick my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my mentors has said, well, come up with a number and tell them that you have a pick your brain fee. And so you say, kindly, I'm honored and my time is limited. My pick my brain fee is this amount. When would you like to book that hour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I bet you do, Ronnie.
Yeah, similarly, people tend to want to talk to me about their issues, right? And I have the same thing. So I say, oh, sounds like you need to book a session. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gets you right out of it.
I've been known to say, I have about 5 minutes, we can have a conversation around it. After that, I'd really love to do a session, because I think it's worth going into deeper.
Nice.
There's the love sandwich.
There it is.
Yeah.
One question.
Yes.
How do you convince yourself that you're worthy of receiving whatever it is that you want? Maybe you want to increase your salary by quarter to half more, per year. How do you convince yourself? What positive words could you give us that take the negative thought into a positive?
First of all, if you do this practice with every inner thought, you'll be building your self-esteem. You'll be building a sense of worth. So if you do something minor and instead of making yourself wrong, you say, wow, I could have done that more skillfully. I'm going to develop more skillfulness. When you do that all the time, your worth is growing. That's why this builds self-esteem. So you can use the thought of, I'm worthy of that money, but what can happen is the fact you have to say it all the time signals to the brain that you don't believe it. So I also have a video on my website, Femifesting. I did a talk on that here a couple of years ago. You might just go sit with your future self who already has it and see what it's like. Put an anchor in it, because there's no time or space. Put an anchor in that reality and bring your life to it. And then start saying, I'm a woman of such wealth. Man, I love the money that's accumulating in my account, so you go live it already. Because now it's signaling to your mind there's something different. And if you add emotions, if you add imagery, if you add movement to it, it makes it even stronger, because the subconscious shifts by imagery and ritual. So get a whole bunch of $20 bills and throw them in the air and go, I'm so wealthy I can throw money everywhere. I love the wealth, and I can see my savings accounts growing every month, and I love how people enjoy paying me. I get so much pleasure out of receiving payments. So now you're in the reality rather than trying to pull it to you.
Could you just repeat? You said subconscious shifts with imagery and
Ritual.
ritual.
Yep. So, beloveds, thank you so very much. It's been a real joy speaking with you, working with you. I've never planned something so little, because I had absolute trust that all together we would get where we wanted to go, and I'm thrilled to be here.